Hi everyone, this is Mary and welcome to Super Skills for Grownups. In our next session for the kids, we're going to be talking about the letter K, how to make an uppercase and a lowercase k, what the letter K sounds like, and our word of the week will be kite. We're going to have a book called Kite Flying, written by and illustrated by Grace Lin. Since it's springtime, kites seem like a good theme. And we will also be making our own little paper bird kite, which will work on our fine motor skills. Before we start in on the how-to with the bird kite, I'd like to talk about Grace Lin a little bit. She's a wonderful author and illustrator. She's written everything from board books to novels for middle grades, and she's got much awarded and much honored in the process. They say that children's books should be mirrors and windows in the sense that children should be able to see their own race, their own ethnicity represented in the things they read. In that sense, a book should be like a mirror. And the way a book can be like a window is that children can look past their own experiences and their own culture into the experiences of people who are different from them. So in Grace Lin's books are just a great way for children to experience both the window aspect and the mirror aspect. She writes a lot of them. A lot of her stories are based on her own experiences growing up in upstate New York as the child of Taiwanese immigrants. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And Kite Flying talks about the Chinese culture of kite flying, of how a family as a group makes a kite when weather permits it and goes out and flies it. Everybody pitches in, and then when it's time to go out and fly the kite, they have a great day. This book is followed at the end of it. It has a little author's note, which is great for going into a little more depth on the tradition, and excuse me, and also has some pictures of the different kinds of animals that are represented in Chinese kites and what those symbolize. So it's a really interesting book. I think that kids can really get their teeth into, and gives them a little glimpse either of themselves, if that's the tradition they come from, or an interesting look into the origin really of kites and the history of them. She does the same thing with dim sum for everyone. She talks about the history of dim sum, again with a little note at the end and just great illustrations. A family goes out to dinner. We learn about the tradition of Chinese tea, how those small plates came about, and I think it's very relatable and interesting and beautiful illustrations. A Big Moon Cake for Little Star, which was a Caldecott Honor book, talks about there's a mid-autumn moon festival that is the basis for a myth that she makes up. These moon festivals feature moon cakes, which is a delicacy, and we learn how Little Star ignores her mother's advice not to eat the moon cake and nibbles a little bit more of it every night. And in this myth that Grace Lin has made up, that's how we get the phases of the moon, because Little Star has eaten a little bit more of the moon each night. It's a great book. Another book by Grace Lin, A Big Bed for Little Snow. Little Snow tests his mother's rules about not jumping on the feather bed every night. Okay. So those are just a few of Grace Lin's many delightful picture books. She also, among her newer books, there's a little 4-book series, they're board books actually, that are called Storytelling Math. And in the length of a board book, just a few pages, she introduces a problem, which is that 2 good friends have gone out to play in the snow. They've come back in to have some cocoa, and there's 2 cups of cocoa, but there are 3 marshmallows. So what is a fair way to share those 3 marshmallows? Okay, so we get into some very basic math concepts of fractions and division, but we also have a great story to go along with it, which is what's fair there's sort of a moral question and the sort of suspense plot element of it. How are they going to resolve this issue? So there's 4 of these little books. They are really fun and pack a lot of complexity into just a few pages. Early readers even. There's a set of 4 little early readers on Ling and Ting, who are twins. Within these books, there are little shorter stories. Your children are not going to be able to read them yet, obviously, and even readers, there's a lot of text on the page, so even kids, once they've starting to learn to read, there's a fair amount of text for them to handle, but they're great books for parents to read with their children and to read aloud to them because the stories are wonderful. All right, and just going to show you what she's got a Newbery honor, one of her books for middle grades, so when your child can go from toddler and preschool up through middle grade with Grace Lin, and will really be much the better for it because I love her books. Okay, so on to our craft, our bird kite. Now for our bird kite, I did a couple of examples. One, I had some colored printer paper, so I used that for one of them. And you see this bird has some purple tail feathers and a little orange beak. A little eye I've drawn on there. And another one using just white printer paper that I colored, your child can color, and also use the same purple tail feathers and the same beak and drew a little eye on there. I actually think that the thinner, cheaper white printer paper works better as a kite than the slightly thicker colored. So what you will need, a piece of printer paper or 8.5 by 11 paper of some sort, and some smaller pieces of either some kind of slightly thicker paper. Construction paper is great if you've got it. I did a little freehand stencil to trace around, a little template, I should say, and then traced around it several times for the tail feathers. I did it again in Sharpie, so it's a nice dark line for the child to cut out. And I did some beaks as well out of orange, just little right triangles. And you're only going to need 1 beak and 3 tail feathers, so I have more than you really need. If you don't have these colors, use whatever colors you have. If you don't have any construction paper, if you have a slightly heavier paper than the printer paper, if it's white, your children can color them, okay? We also are going to need child scissors, so your child can cut those things out. Some yarn to hold the kite with, or actually string would be better, but I had yarn. String or thin ribbon or yarn are all fine, but I think string works the best for this. Craft stick or a popsicle stick, and I think a popsicle stick would probably work better than the craft stick that I have. A pencil for you, the Sharpie for you, or a heavy marker. Crayons or markers for your child to color the printer paper so that he or she has a colorful bird. A little bit of Scotch tape, a hole punch, and a glue stick so your child can glue those feathers and beak on. Okay, you know what, one more thing. We are gonna need a stapler, which you will handle to put to make one staple in the bird. Okay, so now we will put the bird together. Okay, on to our bird kite. So you'll start with your plain piece of paper. You can have your child fold it in half like this. And after it's been folded in half, open it up, and then the inside of this sheet of paper is where your child should decorate. So with crayons or markers, make a colorful pattern to be the bird's feathers or whatever kind of abstract pattern they want to do. And once that's done, then you are going to help them with the folding aspect, okay? So you're going to fold both sides down the same way, okay? You see, there's a little triangle shape in the front. Both sides have been pulled down. It looks like this on the top. And then that's when you're going to use, you as the adult will use your stapler and just put one staple in through the two sides you folded down over the central part of the paper, and put one staple in, okay? So you've got a staple right there, right? And this whole inside part will be decorated. All right, now the next thing you're going to do is you as the adult will take the hole punch and punch a hole, I would say about at least 1/4 of an inch up from this central fold, and because you don't want it too close to the fold, or it may pull through when the string gets pulled. So it should be in the front, say 2/5 or so of the bird. You can tuck it a little bit underneath the wing if you want, but if it's too far under, it'll be too hard for the child to pull the string through. So I'm blocking my face with this, I can see. So just punch out a hole. Okay. I don't know if you can see that right there. Okay. All right, then the next thing we will do is take your child, will use their scissors, remembering that thumbs up, elbow in, thumb through the top hole, first 2 fingers through the bottom hole. They will cut out 3 tail feathers, or however many they want, really. And they don't have to be this shape. They can be whatever shape you and your child decide you like. Glue them together with a glue stick. Your child will do this at the bottom, and then take your glue stick, put some glue on the bottom part of it, on both sides. Okay, and then now put those feathers on the back of the bird. Your child will cut out the beak, put some glue on the fat part of the triangle on both sides as well. Okay. And tuck that in to the front. Okay. Pinch that together. So now your bird has an aerodynamic beak and some kind of a tail, a kite's tail in the back. Ideally, this shouldn't be sticking up so far. It should come more straight out, like this one. Okay. Top of the bird looks like this. Okay. Now your child can draw an eye on the front with a marker or a crayon, and have your bird looking forward. Okay. And the reason I think that this lighter paper is better is that you're going to want to have these holes towards the bird's head. The air is going to go through those and get routed underneath this wing part, and that's what's going to make the kite stay aloft. So next stage is going to be our string, and you can use, as I said, you can use yarn, or you can use, I think string's really better. And you don't need a lot because this is not going to be the type of kite that goes, 20 feet in the air. It's going to be the type of kite that if your child runs with it, should stay aloft fairly close. So you could really even have 3 or 4 feet of string, and it'll be enough to do what this kite's able to do, which is to stay aloft nearby to your child when there's some motion involved and the child is moving. It's not going to, the wind alone will probably not keep this kite up. So take whatever your string is or your yarn. You can hold it for your child can hold it for you. A little piece of tape it onto your craft stick or your popsicle stick, and then your child will wind it, okay? Your child will use pincer grip again. It's going to use both hands, bilateral coordination. Hold the popsicle stick with the non-dominant hand. Grab the string or the yarn with the dominant hand. Thumb and first two fingers, thumb and first two fingers. Tuck the other ones away and just wind. Okay. And as I said, I think I've got a lot more than 3 feet here, but your child will be able to get it's going to be a close by kite. It's not going to be a way up in the sky kite. So you do not need a lot of string. And also you need to keep in mind that anytime you have any length of string at all, which I'm sure you all know, with a young child, the child needs to be supervised. Whether you're at this stage making the kite or whether the child is using the kite, anytime there's string, rope, yarn at play, the child needs to be under adult supervision. Okay, so when it's mostly wound is when you're going to thread it through that hole that we punched, and your child may be able to do it while you hold it, or if not, you just do it. I don't think it's going to need any tape at the end to make it easier to get through. So there it is. Now, this is going to be the first part of an overhand knot. Some kids, some of the older children may be able to do this. They may not, which is fine because they've had their coloring practice, they've had their cutting practice, they've glued and they've wound their kite string around. So they've had a lot of fine motor, bilateral coordination, pincer grip practice. This is a nice intro to knot tying if they can do it. If they can't, I would not press them at all. You do this part. So beginning of an overhand knot. I'm hoping that you can see this well. You're going to put the short end. So one end is connected to the popsicle stick. One end is free. Okay, and for a child, they might need between 4 and 8 inches of the free part to have enough to work with. So the short part crosses over the attached part, which is the long part. You tuck that short part through the hole and pull. Okay? And then so this stays on there, do it again. Okay? It's going to be coming from the opposite direction this time. So the short part crosses over the long part. You poke that through the hole and pull. Okay? After that, you or your child can trim off the short part closer to the bird. And there you go. Okay? You should be able, I have not tested this outside, but I tested it inside, and it, like I said, if you're fairly close by, if your child wants to spin with it in a circle, it should spin around them. If they want to run a little bit with it, hopefully outside or inside, it should stay aloft near them. It's not going to go way up in the sky. And by the way, this is I got this idea from a website called crocattack.com, which is spelled with our letter K, KROKOTAK.com. So crocattack.com, and they have other paper crafts as well there. And I hope you and your child have fun with this. I hope it works outside or at least inside. And we'll be back next time for another letter. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.